The Green Bay Packers, they just keep on rolling. Against the Arizona Cardinals without their top receiver and Davante Adams, without the number 2 receiver in Allen Lazard, without the number 3 receiver in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, it does not matter. That bad man, Aaron Rodgers, gets it done alongside Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, and a combination of plethora of players on the defensive side of the ball as well. Defeated the Arizona Cardinals 24-21 on a last-minute oopsie by Kyler Murray and A.J. Green. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Time2Football. My name is Hassan Khan, the host of this show that we like to call Time2Football. Glad you guys are joining us for your wonderful Friday morning. It's Friday. Rebecca Black, anyone? Remember that? 2011? 10 years ago, that Friday song dropped on us all, and it was the biggest drip in the history of 2011. And I'm actually excited, and it still comes to my head sometimes, that song, whenever it's Friday. And I'm sure it's coming to your head right now as you guys are getting ready for the weekend and get ready for Halloween weekend coming up. First time we've had NFL action on Halloween in a long time. I think like 10 years or so, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's around that time, 6 to 10 years, somewhere around there. Yeah, the Packers, man, I had to turn the lights green because I had to give credit to the Green Bay Packers. Like, they looked phenomenal with everything that was thrown their way. They overcame it all. You got the COVID with the Davante Adams, the COVID news with the Allen Lazard. It doesn't matter. And Kyler Murray looked great in that game as well, but the Green Bay Packers defense looked even better. And we're going to recap you on all the news. I know there was a couple of injuries that happened in that game, according to multiple sources. Kylan Hill, I don't know if you saw that kick return by Kylan Hill, but they Arizona Cardinals player and Kylan Hill kind of smashed into each other on a kickoff return. Well, Arizona, on their side, they should be fine. But as far as Kylan Hill goes, I think he suffered a season-ending knee injury, according to Matt LaFleur. So that's a big blow to the special teams and an upcoming player in Kylan Hill for that run game. But, they still have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon on top of that as well. Hey, are the Packers, leave your comments down below, are they the best team in the NFL? It started off with the Buccaneers in our power rankings being ranked number 1, and then it transitioned over to the Los Angeles Rams being ranked number 1 after they beat the Buccaneers, and then it transitioned over to the Arizona Cardinals after they beat the Los Angeles Rams, and now the Packers, they beat the Arizona Cardinals. So now are they the number 1 team in the NFL? Can anyone top the Green Bay Packers at this point? We're definitely going to have to see. So leave your comments and your thoughts down below. Hey, you're interacting with us in the chat as we are live streaming this show right now. For a few of you guys, I'll acknowledge you guys. Zobu, good morning from Washington, D.C. I hope it's doing well over there in D.C. Colton, good morning. How you doing, man? Mauricio, good morning, y'all. Let's get this bread. Yes, sir. Second straight day. You're trying to get that bread, aren't you? Trying to get that bread. Hey, I understand, man. Friday morning. Sebastian, what's good? And then Mauricio, you also ask, what's your take on Kittle and D-Hop for the rest of the season, half-point PPR? I think Kittle's coming back in Week 9. So I think the return is imminent, and he's going to return to his tight end 1 status pretty soon. So I'd hold on to George Kittle for now. DeAndre Hopkins is another story because even though he's getting it done production-wise, fantasy football, he's only getting like 3, 4, 5 receptions a game. So that does kind of worry me a bit, but, I mean, it's the Arizona Cardinals. Like, it's one of the high-scoring offenses in the NFL. I mean, I would keep both, but if you want to ship DeAndre Hopkins out of any of them to get something out of it, I mean, I'd rather keep Kittle. If I had to keep one of them, it'd be Kittle over DeAndre Hopkins, if that answers your questions. But yeah, keep on leaving your questions. Rush Prime says, good morning. How's it going? Awesome show. Hey, thank you so much. Hey, Miguel, where you at, dude? Miguel's supposed to check in with us every single morning. He's not here. Miguel, if you're watching, comment down below. Anyways, continue to leave your comments and everything down below. Colton says, wait for that Prediction Strikes video later today. Yeah, so on the show, we're actually going to talk about the Prediction Strikes video and give you players that you need to buy and sell in the stock market. And then we're going to split that up as its own individual video and post that later today. And then we're also going to be talking about PrizePicks, where you just pick the overs and unders on fantasy football projections. I was so close, man. I was so close to making $330 yesterday. If Robert Tonyan did not get injured, I would have made like $330, but he did, and I hope the best for him. But that leads us to NFL news and notes that's going around the league that we wanted to cover for today, Friday, October 29th. NFL news. Okay, biggest news that probably underneath the radar that you did not hear about. Austin Eckler did not practice on Thursday. He is dealing with a hip injury. That is big news. That is huge news because they just had a bye week. And to be a midweek downgrade and not practice, even after a bye week on top of that, this injury, it tells us that this is something recent, something new that just occurred. So keep an eye out on Austin Eckler. His status is a little bit unclear. Now, the question is, people don't know about this. Who's the backup? Is it Josh Kelly? Is it Justin Jackson? Is it I almost said Michael Roundtree. I went to high school with a guy named Michael Roundtree. Or is it Larry Roundtree? The answer, nobody knows. Playing on 34% of snaps in the wake of Austin Eckler in the last couple of weeks against the Baltimore Ravens in the week prior to that was Josh Kelly, taking over for Austin Eckler. Now, I will say, Justin Jackson did play on 14% of the snaps. So if you're looking at the numbers and snap count and who's going to be serving as a primary backup, it's been Josh Kelly the last couple of games. I will say, though, as a man that owned Josh Kelly last year in fantasy football, I wish I owned Justin Jackson over Josh Kelly. Justin Jackson is just more talented. He looked more fresh, and maybe Kelly just had his rookie year struggles, and maybe this year he's gotten better. Okay, sure. But in the long run, if I'm playing fantasy football and I needed to pick up a handcuff for Austin Eckler, who am I picking up? At this point, today, sorry, gosh, I'll stop banging the table. I know that's just not good to hear for your iTunes listeners, but if I had to pick up a handcuff for Austin Eckler, who would it be? It would be Justin Jackson in my eyes. I just think he's way more talented, and I think, yeah, you could go with the volume aspect. Oh, Josh Kelly's getting more snaps, and it's pretty much going to be a timeshare at that point, and if it's a timeshare, the player that's the most talented is going to stand out. And the player that's most talented is going to have more opportunities with the injury to Austin Eckler. If Austin Eckler can't play, Justin Jackson, the most talented backup running back in that group behind. So I'm not starting any of them in fantasy football this week, but if I had to just pick up, because we don't know the severity of this hip injury, just for the future, just to make sure, if I had to pick up one person, it would be Justin Jackson. That's just my eyes. I know that Matthew Berry of ESPN thinks the same way. A lot more people are going with Josh Kelly because of snap count, but again, my opinion, Justin Jackson. What else do we've got? T.Y. Hilton, his quad injury is still a factor in him playing, but now he has been upgraded to limited. So he did not practice on Wednesday, but now he is limited in some sort of capacity on Thursday. So that is big news for the Indianapolis Colts. They want to have all their weapons available against this matchup against the Tennessee Titans, so that is good news for T.Y. Hilton. Corey Davis, he has a hip injury as well, just like Austin Eckler. He was limited in practice, so keep an eye on his status for this week. Rob Gronkowski, he practices for a second consecutive day. So I think this gives us a little bit of hope that Rob Gronkowski is going to make his long-awaited return against the New Orleans Saints this week. Eric Ebron has a hamstring injury. He's been added to the injury report. Again, just like Austin Eckler, this is a little bit of a midweek injury that occurred. So this occurred on Thursday. We just now realized that he has a hamstring injury that popped up on Thursday. What does that mean? That means that it is Pat Freiermuth season all the way, baby. Had a clutch game against the Seattle Seahawks. 7 receptions for 59 yards. 10 yards away from being nice. But 7 receptions on 7 targets. But look at the severity and the importance and the crucial moments of those receptions. The weight of it on third down to help the Steelers convert and help win those games. That tells me that during the bye week, Mike Tomlin and company are going to incorporate Pat Freiermuth into the game plan a little bit more. So if you're looking for a tight end in fantasy football, Think about Pat Fryermuth, who's widely available on fantasy football waivers. I have Mark Andrews on a bye, and I had my eyes on Pat Fryermuth for the longest time. And then once this injury occurred to Eric Ebron, I was like, yeah, I got to get Pat Fryermuth. I got to stream him. And we're going to talk a lot about him on the duration of the show. Deebo Samuel. So this is kind of concerning. He has a calf injury. He did not practice on Wednesday, but he was limited on Thursday. Now, Kyle Shanahan, to kind of ease a little bit of you guys whose blood is boiling right now that have Deebo Samuel in fantasy football, Kyle Shanahan did say that Deebo Samuel should be good to go. So don't worry about Deebo Samuel too much. I think he's going to be good to go. I think they're just limiting his reps in practice right now. Michael Gallup is back at practice. We've been talking about him. We've talked about that he's going to be making his return sooner rather than later, and it's going to be happening this week against the Minnesota Vikings. We hope. We hope. So if that were the case, that means Dalton Schultz and all the other tight ends would take a step back, unfortunately, because Michael Gallup is greatly targeted by Dak Prescott in that offense. Jarvis Landry says that he'll play on Sunday. He is dealing with a knee issue, but that doesn't matter to him. He says that he is good to go. And then the last little bit of news, Mark Ingram has a high chance of playing this Sunday and making a season debut for the New Orleans Saints. I didn't want to say his team debut because he's already played with the Saints before, but he has a high chance of playing. We don't know what kind of role he'll have, but we will see. And that is going to be your NFL news and notes for today. Hey, Colton, you wanted your Prediction Strike video. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Prediction Strike, the stock market of fantasy football. What we do on this show is we give you 3 players that you need to buy and 3 players that you need to sell via the stock market of fantasy football. And for you guys that are new to this, don't know the concept of it, listen, the link is in the description. Click that link, use the promo code T2F, and you get a free share of a player if you make a $20 deposit or more. But what it is if they exceed their fantasy football projections, their stock price goes up. And if they don't meet their fantasy football projection, their stock price goes down. For instance, Kyler Murray, he didn't meet his fantasy projection last night. So his stock price went down. Whereas Randall Cobb exceeded his fantasy football projection, so his price went up. You just make some serious cash based off of players that you think are going to break out, whether it be this week, whether it be the duration of the season, whether it be the duration of someone's career. You can play the long game in investing in those right players. So I'm here to tell you 3 players that you need to buy and 3 players that you need to sell. First off, let's talk about the players that you need to buy in on because we want to talk about some optimism, especially with the Houston Texans, because it has not been looking pretty for the Texans. But I can tell you that for the backfield, for certain players, it might turn around, especially Phillip Lindsay of the Houston Texans. We look at the analysis right here. It's pretty self-explanatory. He's going to get an increase in touches following the Mark Ingram trade. I mean, that's pretty much a given. We expected him to be more productive than David Johnson because you could talk about, oh, David Johnson's going to be the RB1. Maybe on the depth chart, sure. But Phillip Lindsay is fresher. He's younger. He's got a little bit more miles left in the tank on him. So I would go with Phillip Lindsay. He's only going for $1.97 a share. So Phillip Lindsay would be a guy that you want to buy low on, maybe buy like a few shares. I think I just bought like 5 shares of him. So I'm not expecting like a huge profit, but I'll make like a few bucks for him from him if he were to take off. Now, we talked about this player earlier, but the player that you need to buy number 2, I'm going to keep on nailing, what's the phrase? The nail in the coffin, nail in the head, whatever. I'm just going to talk about this player a lot. Pat Fryermuth, Pittsburgh Steelers tight end. $2.26 a share. He's up a 28% increase. That's up 50 cents a share. But look at the analysis. Eric Ebron listed on the injury report. Breakout game could be on the horizon. Fryermuth only projected 7.1 PPR points this week. Do you think that he's going to exceed 7.1 PPR points if Eric Ebron doesn't play? I think he will. I bought 10 shares of Pat Fryermuth just earlier this morning, and I'm pretty high on him because 7.1, what is that? 3 receptions for 40 yards, 41 yards. 4 receptions for 31 yards. Like, it's just very, very doable for Pat Fryermuth. So that's a player that you need to buy in on, number 2. Player that you need to buy in on, number 3. This is a little bit of the long game, but I'm just here to remind you that you can't forget about Jeff Wilson. He's going to be making his debut for the San Francisco 49ers this season, somehow, some way. And according to general manager John Lynch, if you look at the analysis, it's expected to be in late November. Should immediately take over as RB1 just because Elijah Mitchell has been looking good, but not great. Jermichael Hasty has been looking mediocre to good. Trey Sermon has been, Kyle Shanahan just doesn't have a lot of faith in Trey Sermon. Jeff Wilson, on the other hand, has proven in years past that he can be the running back one if opportunity arises. And I believe that is going to arise once again. Only $2.09 a share. So once he returns, his fantasy football projections at the first couple of weeks might be a little bit low, but he could exceed that as being the RB1. So keep in mind that Jeff Wilson is a player that you need to buy in on. Now, players that you need to sell, and I'm going to name a couple Packers players just after last night's performance. First one is Randall Cobb. This is a player that you need to sell high on because he's going for $8.70 a share, which is a lot of freaking money, by the way. So if you invested in him before the Green Bay game, thinking like, oh, Devontae Adams is out, Allen Lazard is out, who's he going to throw to? Randall Cobb. Okay, I'm going to buy a few shares. Well, hey, you hit big on that. Had 2 touchdowns. 9.87% increase for you guys. So congratulations if you made some money on that. But now is the time to sell, and I would do it now because he had his best performance of the season last night. He's not going to duplicate that performance. He's not. We've always asked in fantasy football for you guys that owned Randall Cobb and drafted him late in fantasy football drafts. We always asked, when are you ever in your life going to start Randall Cobb? The only instance is if Devontae Adams is out, Allen Lazard, Marcus Valdes-Scantling is out. Guess what? All of the stars aligned, and that once-in-a-lifetime scenario happened. Once in a lifetime. It's never going to happen again. So Randall Cobb is a player that you need to sell on. Another Packers player that you need to sell is Robert Tonyan. So he did suffer a knee injury, and the stock price does not decrease because of injuries per se. It's only if they don't meet their fantasy football projection and if people start to sell them, then their stock price decreases. Now, since he was active and he started and he didn't meet his fantasy football projection, and it could be because he was injured, because he just sucked, it doesn't matter. He didn't meet his fantasy football projection, so his stock price plummeted. And a lot of people probably bought in on him thinking, okay, he's going to be the main target for Aaron Rodgers, and he would have been because you look at the analysis. Prior to his injury, he was on pace for his biggest target share this season. With Devontae Adams returning, Tonyan more than likely will not have that large of a workload ever again this season. Okay, we know that he's touchdown dependent, and with those players returning, I wouldn't really keep Robert Tonyan. It's not really worth the investment at that point. So Robert Tonyan is a player that you need to sell on. Now, player number 3, last player that you need to sell high, very high on right now, at this moment, CJ Uzomah. Guys, I know in general, fantasy football, people are picking up CJ Uzomah. I am not messing with that at all. 2 receptions, 3 receptions, off of 2 or 3 targets for 2 touchdowns. That's not sustainable production. An astronomical increase after week 7, $7.65 a share. That is a 72% increase after his 2 touchdown performance against the Baltimore Ravens. So he's up $3.21 a share. So if you own CJ Uzomah, guys, this is the time to sell high on him because his fantasy football projection is just going to keep on going up and up and up as he continues to make this unsustainable fantasy, just keeps on putting up these unsustainable fantasy football points. Now's the time to sell high because his price from now on, this is the highest it's going to be, and it's just going to plummet down. So those are 3 players that you need to buy and 3 players that you need to sell via PredictionStrike. Click the link in the description. Use promo code T2F. Buy in on investing in the stock market of the NFL, of fantasy football. And you get a free share if you use the promo code T2F. Another one of our sponsors that we talk about every Friday is PrizePicks. So PrizePicks, what it is, you just pick the overs and unders of fantasy football projections. That's it. And if you're right, you get some money. And if you're wrong, you lose some money. I talked about earlier in the show, I was so close. I put in $33, and I was so close to winning $337 or $333, something like that. But then Robert Tonyan got hurt, and then I ended up winning double my money because if you hit 4 out of the 5 on your fantasy football overs and unders, you double your money. But if you hit all 5, then you 10 times your money. So I put in 33 bucks, could have won $333, ended up only winning $66, which is still like I'm happy with what I won. But man, if Tunyon didn't get injured. But hey, what I'm gonna do on this segment is every week we give you 3 players that you want to take the unders on and 3 players that you want to take the overs on via PrizePicks and what projections they have on their website. So I'm going to first start off with players that you want to go ahead and take the unders on, and I'm going to show you how confident I am in this. So the first player that you want to take the under on is Matthew Stafford. And you could actually take the unders on stat projections as well. So just certain stat lines. 297.5 passing yards is the PrizePicks projection right now. Now, the reason I take the under on that, because he is facing the Houston Texans, so you're like, oh man, he's going to get well over 300 yards. Well, hold on. Let's slow down a bit, because if you look at his passing yardage total, he's only topped 300 yards, or 297 yards at least, just 3 times this season out of 7 games. So the stats are in favor of him not reaching 297 yards, especially in a game where it might be a little bit more out of control. You're going to have to lead pretty early, and you're just going to have to run with the ball and not pass that much. This has happened with the New York Giants when the Rams faced the New York Giants. That game was a little bit out of control. Stafford only passed for like 250 yards, and I expect the same kind of results, same kind of method or similar stat line for Matthew Stafford in this kind of game where it's kind of out of hand. I'm only 70% confident in that because, Stafford, he has facing the Texans, so he could top that, but still, that's a player you want to think about taking the under on his PrizePicks projection. The second player you want to take the under on, it's got to be another player in that game, and that is Brandon Cooks, 14.5 PPR points. Now, he could very well exceed that. That's why I'm only 70% confident in it. But we mentioned this earlier in the week during the show that he's going to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. We expect, because Jalen Ramsey, sometimes he only plays like one side of the field, and then other times he shadows the number 1 receiver. This is an instance that I think that he's going to shadow the number 1 receiver because he's the best player. Brandon Cooks is on that team, on that offense. So if he's the best player, you want to eliminate the best player on that offense to increase your chances of winning. Put your best defensive player, one of your best defensive players in the secondary on Brandon Cooks. You eliminate him, you get to dominate that game. So I think that Jalen Ramsey is going to shadow him. Again, it's PPR, so if he ends up getting like 7 receptions, he'd only need like 70, 80 yards at that point to exceed that. So that's why I'm only 70% confident, but I am kind of confident that, more confident than not, I should say, that Brandon Cooks is not going to reach 14.5 fantasy points. And the last player that you want to take the under on, I'm going to talk about Derrick Henry here real quick. 23 fantasy points, and this is not a knock on that Derrick Henry is bad. He's not, but more so that the Colts run defense is actually kind of good. And Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. He's matchup proof. He can do anything that he wants to do. But I'm going to take the under because this is what you got to do with PrizePicks. Players that are projected a lot of fantasy points, like 23, 24, 25 fantasy points, you would want to take the under on them more than you want to take the over just because your chances of hitting on that projection, it increases. So, hey, he could very well get like 18 points, 19 points, which would still be like a very good Derrick Henry week, but it's not 23 fantasy points. It's a Colts run defense. The Colts run defense is pretty good, and I'm 85% confident just because it's such a high number, 23 points is, that he's not going to reach that amount. So those are the 3 players that you want to take the under on. Now, players that you want to take the overs on, 3 players. 1, Pat Freiermuth. There he is again. We've been talking about him all show long. 6.5 PPR fantasy points is his projection on PrizePicks. Guys, Eric Ebron added to the injury report. Had a breakout game against the Seattle Seahawks. Proved to be very reliable. You think Mike Tomlin is not aware of that? He's going to include Freiermuth in the game plan. He's going to be that 3rd down, 3rd and short kind of guy that you can rely on, dump it off. Ben Roethlisberger could hit him, convert on the 1st down. And I'm 80% confident that Pat Freiermuth hits that. 6.5 PPR points. That's 3 receptions for 35 yards. 4 receptions, 25 yards. 2 receptions, 45 yards. It's doable. Very doable for Pat Freiermuth. The next player you want to take the under on, or the over, excuse me. These next 2 players, I'm actually not too confident on, but I'm going to go ahead and just mention him. Jameis Winston. He's projected 16 PPR fantasy points. Well, PPR doesn't matter for quarterbacks, but still. Our projection, we're taking the over on that. And we're only 65% confident just because it's Jameis Winston. The Saints don't pass the ball a lot. But I think against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they're going to have to keep up with Tom Brady and that high-powered offense, they're going to have to pass the ball a lot. Plus, Jameis Winston, listen, he's going to face his former team in the Bucs. I think he's going to be a little bit more motivated. He had close to 16 points, 15.88 last week, so it's doable that he can reach 16. So I'm going to go ahead and take the over on Jameis Winston. And then the last player that I'll take the over on, I'm the least confident in this just because the tight end position is just so bad. But I'm just going to mention him just because he has got a good revenge game, just like Jameis Winston coming up, and that is Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. 4 straight touchdowns in the last 4 games. 9.5 PPR points is his projections. Listen, he's been getting 5-6 targets. So if he only gets like maybe 3 or 4 of those receptions, right? Three receptions for 65 yards, it would be 9.5 PPR points. That's kind of hard to do, but listen, if he gets a touchdown at any point, like he's been getting the last 4 games, then you don't have to worry about anything. So that's why I'm only 60% confident, just because of the tight end position, because of the Patriots and Mac Jones and how they operate. They're not really too pass heavy of an offense. So I'm not too confident on that, but I'm going to go ahead and still stick with it and say that Hunter Henry gets 9.5 PPR points. So that is the overs and unders via PrizePicks. Now, what we do, just to show you guys that I'm not like full of it and I'm actually like making the picks and trying to win some money as well, I'm going to go ahead and make my projections live on this show. So let me go ahead and switch it over to my computer and put myself in the corner right here. And so we can only choose 5 players out of the 6 that we talked about in like one little prop bet. So I'm going to choose 5. Let's first choose the players that I'm the most confident in, and that is Derrick Henry. I'm 85% confident in him not reaching 23 fantasy points. So if we scroll a little bit down to Derrick Henry, where is he at? He should be here somewhere. There he is. And then another player, let me look at my notes, Pat Freiermuth. I'm 80% confident in him. So he faces the Cleveland Browns, 1 o'clock game. So he should be kind of closer to the top. Where you at? Where you at, Pat? Pat. Am I tripping? Eagles, Lions. Okay. Titans, Colts. Okay. Bengals, Jets. Okay. Steelers. Here we are. Okay. Freiermuth, right in front of my face. Gosh. Okay. So it pops up right here. Derrick Henry under. Freiermuth over. And then we had Matthew Stafford. I was a little bit more confident in him. So I'm going to go here to single stat. Passing yards. Stafford. Okay. 297. I'm going to pick the under. Now we have 2 more. We have Jameis Winston, Hunter Henry, and Brandon Cooks. Which ones should we pick? Well, since I wasn't that big on Hunter Henry getting over, let me go ahead and pick Jameis Winston and Brandon Cooks. So let's go back to fantasy score. Jameis Winston has a later game, so he's going to be down closer to the bottom. There he is, right here. Pick him, and I'm going to pick the over on that. And then what else have we got? We've got single stat DFS. We're going to go with Brandon Cooks. No, we're sticking with fantasy score. Brandon Cooks, Texans versus the Rams. So we've got Rams, Texans right here. Okay, Brandon Cooks. And we're taking the under on that. So Brandon Cooks under, Jameis Winston over, Matthew Stafford under, Freiermuth over, and Derrick Henry under. Okay, awesome. So what I do every show is I put in $10 for a chance to win $100, because if you get all 5 correct, you win 10 times your money. So I'm just going to place that entry just like that. Boom. Entry has been placed. And that's it. So use the promo code T2F, sign up, start playing on the overs and unders of fantasy football, and you could win some serious cash. Click that link in the description. All right. Viewer questions that you guys have been leaving in the comments right before this weekend slate of games. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, a few minutes, answering some of these questions. We've already gone over our time limit, but whatever. We do that every week. Oh, wow, there's a lot. There's a lot of comments. Okay. Jeff Fields McCormick. Good morning, everyone. Let's get this W. Yes, sir. Fix Rocks. Okay, what a name. I traded Carter and Latavius Murray for Saquon. How do you rank him rest of the season? Good morning to you. I would say, yeah, I mean, I hope that Saquon goes back to his regular workload, but I don't think it's going to really happen just because of the amount of injuries that he's been dealing with. I think they want to kind of preserve him a little bit more. So in theory, yes, I would say that's a good trade. But if you need a running back depth, then maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I would go with Saquon over Latavius Murray and Michael Carter. Rush Prime. Should I start for wide receiver 2? Marvin Jones, you mean? Lockett or Beasley? My flex is Javonte Williams. Okay, wide receiver 2. I'm not big on Tyler Lockett. Haven't been big on him in a while. I would say Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones out of all of them. Carlos, good morning. Love the content. But I'm blessed with so much talent. I have. Yes, you left this question yesterday. I did not have a chance to get to you, but you have Debo, Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, DK, Adam Thielen, Julio, Emmanuel Sanders. Who should I start? Okay, so not Julio because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. Wait, how many can you start? How many can you start? Can you start one? If it's just one, then I would, I would do Mike Williams out of all of them. And if it's 2, then I would do Debo and Mike Williams. If it's 3, then I would do Debo, Mike Williams, DK. If it's 4, I would do Debo, Mike Williams, DK, Chris Godwin. If it's 5, then I would throw Adam Thielen in there. So, dang, you're good at wide receiver, dude. You should trade some of them away to get a running back or a quarterback or something. Sandra, Green didn't know his play, but good morning from Arizona. Yes. Green did not. There was a little bit of a mishap right there. Glad you're joining us from Arizona, actually. I know that the mood after that game over there out west is not the best, but yeah, that was just a little bit of a miscommunication right there. Jim Rader, let's get it. Yes, sir. Let's get it. New Life. Hello from Mexico. Hola. Is Eckler's hip injury serious? Gracias. So from what I've read right now, I think, I don't know if you tuned into the beginning of the show. I think you did if you left that comment. I don't know if you're still tuning in. But yeah, Eckler's hip injury, for you guys that are just now tuning in, in my eyes, I think it is kind of serious just for this week. Maybe after this week, he's back to normal and he can start playing. But for this week, yes. I mean, when you're coming off of a bye week where you had an extra week to rest and you're coming off of a week of practice where you get downgraded midweek on a Thursday, it's not optimistic. So I think it is kind of serious. Jim Rader, TJ Hawkinson or Hunter Henry this week? What should I do with Hawkinson moving forward? Hold on to Hawkinson. Hawkinson is the most talented player besides DeAndre Swift on that offense. And the rave reviews that he's been getting during OTAs, I think it's eventually going to come about. And he's going to have a good, productive season last half of the season like he has the first 2 weeks of the season. So I would stick with TJ Hawkinson, man. I would not do anything drastic. I mean, Hunter Henry, this level of production that he's been having in the last 4 games is not sustainable. I think he's a good add in fantasy football. I think he's still going to be the number 1 tight end. Johnny Smith is hurt as well, so that's good for Hunter Henry. But Hawkinson, man, on a whole nother talent level. Stick with it. Go with TJ Hawkinson. Pittman or Chuba for flex? This is by Sebastian. Chuba Hubbard, man. Chuba has like a safe floor, even though that floor, he's been reaching that every single week. It hasn't been really looking that good outside of like the game against the Philadelphia Eagles where he rushed for like 100 and something yards. And that game where he took over for Christian McCaffrey against the Houston Texans. But besides that, I mean, yeah, Chuba. I'd go Chuba over Pittman. Jeff Fields McCormick, do we know the severity of Zach Ertz's injury? What about Kyler Murray? I only saw the last few minutes of the game, and the folks on Twitter that I usually follow haven't provided any updates. Thanks. So Zach Ertz, I haven't read anything about that either, which kind of tells me, no, don't worry about it. Kyler Murray, I watched the game, and he limped. He was limping the last drive of the game, but it's okay. I think he's fine. Like, he played through it. He was just limping. He didn't look like to be in serious pain. Like, his facial expressions were just like, no. I mean, I don't think it's too serious, so don't worry about it. And you also ask if Eckler's out, how much does that impact the floor and / or ceiling of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams? What about Jared Cook? Yeah, it increases it. It increases their floor for sure. And I would say, I mean, my biggest thing that I'm honing in on is I wouldn't start any of the replacement running backs. Justin Jackson, Josh Kelly, none of them. I'm not starting any of them. I'm not touching them. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, yeah, it's going to increase them because he's not going to dump it off as much. Herbert isn't. Plus, they have like a lot of design pass plays for Austin Eckler specifically. So that's going to go more towards Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But I don't think it's going to be too significant of a difference. But I mean, it helps, but it's not. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. Jordanian Poppy. I didn't end up dropping Chase Edmonds. Thank you. I think you asked that, was it Wednesday or Tuesday? You were thinking about it? I remember your question. Should you drop Chase Edmonds? And I was like, please, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And he got into the end zone. So Chase Edmonds is a player that I've loved all season long. All season. And he's just going to continue to get better. So don't worry about that. Octavio, morning, everyone. Pick one PPR. Lamb with Dak Monday night. Mike Williams with Belichick or Mike Evans, or versus Belichick, or Mike Evans versus Lattimore. Okay. I think Mike Evans just is kind of like the DK versus Jalen Ramsey effect, where the more they play, the more it just doesn't matter anymore. PPR. I want to say CeeDee Lamb, but the fact that Michael Gallup is coming back or he could play this Monday, and he just hasn't been getting like a large amount of targets outside of like maybe 3 games this year, makes me want to go with Mike Williams. So, I mean, if you're feeling safe, I would go with Mike Williams. Mike Williams would be my choice. Miguel, morning, guys. Coach, PrizePicks. Oh, he calls me Coach, by the way, because I give him fantasy football advice. I love it. Miguel, dude, thanks for checking in. PrizePicks, I had 2 guys, Edmonds and Stafford, both over. Edmonds went over last night. We start good. I need Stafford to go over and win some cash. Hey, it could happen. Now, I mean, I hope you watched this video. I had the under on the passing yards at least, so maybe the fantasy score, like if he scores touchdowns, sure. Hopefully, for your sake, maybe we can win some cash. But I mean, I just put in $10. So for my sake, I hope you're wrong, Miguel. Frymuth over Everett this week. This is by Gabriel. Everett has one of the softest matchups this week. Yeah, he does, but it's Gerald Everett, and I thought he was going to be a little bit more productive in this offense, but he was the most productive last week. But it's Frymuth. I would go with Frymuth. I'm going to skip around just a bit just because we're running out of time here. Brett Forsyth. AJ Green looked like Joe Biden out there shuffling his feet and disoriented. Let's go, Brandon. Yes, sir. Yeah, there was a little bit of a miscommunication between AJ Green and Kyler Murray, but that's hilarious. That she said Joe Biden. I'm not getting political on this show. I just said one phrase. I just said, let's go, Brandon. I'm not saying whether I'm for him or I'm against him. I'm just saying it's a TikTok trend. Gosh, geez, don't cancel me. Carlos, I'm trying to trade, but everyone is being a BI ****H. LOL. Yeah, I mean, that's just the life of fantasy football. I'm not going to mention anything because he probably watches the show. But I know people that get frustrated from people not trading with them, and it can be frustrating. Like, I've been in that position before too. But like, at the end of the day, my thought process is like, yeah, well, they don't have to trade with you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if they want to hold on to their team, they want to hold on to their team. Just make a better trade or better trade offer. Jordanian and Poppy also say, should I drop Gesicki when I get Mark Andrews back or trade him high? Trade him high. Trade Gesicki high. I mean, there's no point of both of them unless you want to handcuff. Both of them are tight end ones. But yeah, trade away Gesicki. Let me answer some questions from people that have not. I haven't had the opportunity to acknowledge. I traded James Robinson for Cordero Patterson. Is that a good trade? Do you want me to be blunt? Bradley, I'm going to say no. I like James Robinson more. He's just more of a traditional running back, and I understand the PPR aspect of Cordero Patterson, but I just don't. I don't think Cordero Patterson's fantasy value is going to be sustainable. And by the time it comes around to playoff time, I'd rather have someone that's like a safe floor and James Robinson who's going to get the carries, going to get the goal line touches. They rely on Cordero Patterson being shifted around in different packages and offense and routes and whatever they want to create for him. So I would like to have James Robinson more. That's just me personally, but let me skip around a little bit more. I do have to sign up, so let me go ahead and say answer one or two more. Rob, aloha. Always coming in with that. And then Sandra says, aloha from the mainland. Yes. Aloha from the mainland from here too. From Atlanta, Georgia. Hey, game 3 coming up right here in our neighborhood. Braves Astros. Who's having it? Who's getting it? It's been back and forth. Game 1, it was all Braves. Game 2 is all Astros. So we'll see. Chris, morning all. Happy early Halloween. Should I trade Diggs, CEH, Darrell Williams? Ooh, that's a nifty package you got there. Did I just say that on air? That's not what I meant. For Zeke and Keenan Allen, I have Chase, Lamb, Chenault, Swift, Jacobs, Gaskin. Okay, so Diggs, CEH, and Darrell Williams for Zeke and Keenan Allen. No. I'd keep Diggs, CEH, and Darrell Williams. Let me answer one more. Steven, will Cousins go off on Cowboys? Yes. Yes, it will happen. Actually, on PrizePicks, I think his projection is 19 fantasy points this week. But, I think he might have the opportunity to get over that. Hey, keep in mind that he's got to keep up with Dak Prescott, high-scoring offense. And also, let's just dive into the stats real quick. Last little bit before I got to sign off here. I think this is the longest I've ever gotten on a live show. Why not? Whatever. Okay. So he's only had 2 games this year where he hasn't hit 22 fantasy points. Every game, he has hit at least 22 fantasy points outside of week 4 and week 5. I like it. I like it a lot. I do have to go. I have to sign off here, but we appreciate you just joining us for this episode of Time2Football. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. Hey, subscribing to this channel goes a very long way in showing your support and helping us out. I did not have the opportunity last week. It was a crazy weekend to do a live show, like a fantasy football Q&A. I may do it this Sunday, and if I do it this Sunday, then it would be 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so keep that in mind. I can't guarantee it, but tune in around 9 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time to leave your questions right before Sunday's kickoff. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, let's go Brandon.